What's going on, guys? This is Kale here, coming at you with another video today. So this one is going to be talking that we have since obviously accomplished our 30% in the Doom 1.0 raid, and we've finally gotten our hands on some of those very rare, hard to come by blue ISO 8 orbs. I think kind of a question on a lot of people's mind is kind of what you should be using those on, who do you focus on first? And, while I certainly am never a big fan of telling anyone kind of how to control their roster or kind of like what to build up, I think there are kind of some good suggestions. And for me, and what I'll be doing basically on all three accounts, and I'm going to be, following this advice, so over here, I'm just going to claim my rewards real fast because I haven't done it yet on Mini over here. And I mean, I have done it on Kale, I've done it on Dracarys already. But so basically, getting to 30% in the Doom 1.0 raid gets you access to these blue ISO 8 orbs, which then allows you to open a very specific orb that kind of corresponds with the ISO 8, or rather with the character kind of classes. So you've got your support, you've got your protector, you've got your controllers, you've got your brawlers, and you have your blasters. So basically, you open up orbs like this. It gets you ISO 8 orbs for characters, like Yellow Jacket or trying to think of some other blasters off the top of my head. But, so Kestrel, for example, Brawlers gives you ISO 8 crystals for characters like Symbiote Spider-Man, controllers, the controllers in the game. Pretty self-explanatory. That part, I think, is pretty simple. I think more challenging part, and I guess maybe the more strategic part, is who do you focus on first? Do you just pick a random character? Who do you want to focus on? And my top suggestion is focus on your arena team first. And this is only going to apply if you already have kind of like a meta arena team that you are going to be using for the foreseeable future. So for Mini, I am planning on using Infinity Watch plus Kestrel. Now, the reason I'm not using full Infinity Watch is because I don't have them on Mini. I obviously have them on Kale. So on Kale, I'm going just full Infinity Watch. Now, what you're going to want to do is I would then say focus on characters that really kind of are going to benefit from these particular classes. So when you look here at the ISO 8, if you go in and you go into whatever class they are, you can actually see ISO 8 level 2, basically. So blue ISOs, what you don't get the actual, strong benefit of the ISO until you get to level 3, which is where it currently caps out at. But for a striker, if the target is vulnerable, with a duration of 2+ vulnerables, you're going to deal 5% of this character's max health to the primary target. Which is just, that's on a character like this, like Gamora, that's going to be a lot of damage. So, that's definitely an essential thing. However, in order to get those 2 vulnerables going on this particular team, Nebula is actually the one that's going to get those vulnerables going. So, when you're looking here at the skirmisher aspect, and when you get to blue ISO level 2, so that's actually level 1, let's scroll down here. So, on blue ISO level 3, when they hit the primary target, they're going to apply those 2 vulnerables, plus they gain 50% focus for this attack. The 50% focus doesn't really matter as much, but the big thing is that's how you get those 2 vulnerables, and that's how your characters are going to be able to do that extra percent damage. So, in my opinion, for this particular team, Nebula is the most important to work on first, followed then by your damage dealers. So, following Nebula, I would probably work on Gamora, Adam Warlock, if I had him. In Mini's case, I'll then probably work on Kestrel, and then either Moondragon or Phyla-Vell. There's really, no wrong reason on that one. So when I'm looking here and I want to start working on Nebula, So I look, Nebula is going to be a brawler, so I'm going to want to open up those brawler ISO 8 orbs. Once I'm done with Nebula, for example, I can then go over to Gamora, and Gamora just happens to be a brawler as well. So there's a chance that if I'm getting double orbs in certain cases, I can equip, both of them kind of hand in hand. Phyla-Vell over here is a protector, and then Moondragon is going to be support, and Kestrel happens to be a blaster. So when I go in here, I'm going to look at my ISO 8 orbs, and I am going to select the Brawler one because that applies to both Nebula and Gamora. But like I said, I'm focusing on Nebula first. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to open an orb. Now you're always going to get, your center pillar is always going to be the trait that you selected. Your left orb is going to be a random trait. It can be the same one, it could be Brawler, or it could be a random one. So protector, support, blaster, etc. Your far right orb is always going to be your ions, and those are going to vary based off of the drop. So right here, we got 2 of these brawler orbs, so I can actually equip 1 to Nebula and 1 to Gamora. And then I also got 1 protector orb, which then I can equip to Phyla-Vell. So I'm going to open up the next one, see what we get. All right, and so we got, I think we got that exact same orb. So we now have 4 of those, and we also got 1 blaster. And again, we got 15,000 ions. So that seems to be the pretty normal. So the ions are always going to be 15,000, and then your center is just basically going to vary based off of, if it's a green, it's going to be 2, and so on and so forth. Like, in this case, I got 2, and the right one is basically just going to vary up. So kind of going back in, I can now go look at my actual characters, and Nebula isn't quite ready yet to go to Blue ISO, because I still need to finish off these 2. But what I can do is, since I did get 4 of that one particular crystal, I can look at Gamora here, and I can upgrade her to Blue ISO. And what I could do, so essentially what I could do here is I could actually take, if I wanted, I could take Gamora up to ISO 8 level 2, and, since I do have 4 of those crystals. So this one is going to kind of come down, I think, to maybe more individual kind of preference. And what I mean by that is, if you want to maybe prioritize getting ISO Blue to level 1 on all the characters first, versus, then going to ISO 2 and then 3, that's really kind of hard to say. Since we're only going to be running Doom 1.0 right now about once a week, I think that's kind of a decision you as a player have to make. Personally, I like the idea of just basically, kind of taking them to the point where you really get the benefit of the Blue ISO. And, at Blue ISO level 1, all you're basically gaining, and I mean 5% health, or 5% damage rather. So while that is a nice amount of damage, it's not really anything that I'm kind of willing to kind of spread that thin resource out. So I think personally what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working on taking something to Blue ISO level 3 and then kind of moving forward. And, basically once a character has it at 3, I will then move to the next character. So in the situation of Gamora and Nebula, I don't have enough to basically take this first stat to ISO Blue level 3. So I'm just going to hold on to them, and once Nebula does get to the actual Blue ISO point, I might actually start equipping them, because like I said, I think I'm going to work on Nebula first. But until then, I'm going to hold on to it. Now, with Phyla-Vell, because I remember I did get a protector ISO thing. So once I actually get her to level 75, which I'm starting to level her up, I will take her to the Blue ISO level and equip. So what we can do is we can actually look at a character I can actually equip on, which is going to be Kestrel, because I also did get a Blaster ISO 8. So I will upgrade her right here, and I will equip my first Blue ISO. Now, the only reason I'm equipping Kestrel is, number one, like I said, she is part of my arena team, and I don't have any other blasters that are part of that team. So I'm okay with equipping that one. Basically now, in order to get to ISO level 3, I'm going to need 8 more of these basic crystals. So I have already one equipped, and now I need 8 more to get to 9, which will get me to blue ISO level 3. So, like I said, arena team, I think should be your primary focus. Now, the reasoning behind that is an arena, based off of how well you are doing an arena, gets you cores. Now, this is obviously going to depend on your arena shard, but ideally, if you can, excuse me for just a minute. Sorry about that, y'all. So basically what you're going to want to do is keep yourself as high up in the arena as possible. And the way to do that is to have the strongest arena team possible. And getting blue ISO on your team is definitely going to give you a competitive edge. And if you can get yourself between the 21 to 50 mark, you're basically paying for all of your daily refreshes that you normally do. And it's basically costing you nothing. And what then normally happens is you get cores throughout the day from completing daily objectives, completing milestones, and eventually you start building a surplus of cores. Now, if you can get yourself above the 21 mark and you get yourself to the 11 to 20, you're even in a better spot, because right off the bat, you've got your 200 cores that are basically being refunded to you, plus you're already getting an additional 50 cores, not including all of the other cores you get from the daily objectives and the milestones. So that's why I think the arena team should be your first focus. Having that influx of cores is how, Mini has 3,000 cores. And the reason this is good is because when events like the Sharon Carter event come around, I can go really hard on those events and refresh, 2 100 core refreshes, and I actually don't deplete all my cores. So that's why I save up those cores for events like that. Once you do have your arena team built up into blue ISO level 3, the next teams I think you're going to want to work on is going to be your raid teams. And with the Alliance plan of basically doing Doom First Strike and Doom 1.0, obviously the eventual plan is to be just purely running Doom 1.0. But what I would look at is if you're in, for example, Mini is over in this section here. So, I might want to work on, maybe if I'm having a hard time getting through the mutant section, I might want to work on my mutants first. If I am having no issues whatsoever with my mutants and they are able to clear these 2 nodes just fine, I'm then going to look at my next section and is my bio team able to clear through with no problems? If I'm still having issues, blue ISOs might be the thing that helps them get through that section. If you already have them at max gear or as high a level as you can take them, or as high a star you can take them. So, there's no cookie cutter answer on, what part of your raid team you should be working on first. I would just look at what content are you not able to clear and where do you need the most help. For Mini, I was able to do the mutant sections, and I actually wasn't able to finish the boss node for the mutant section. So for me, that's something I need to work on. So for Mini, once I have my arena team worked out, I am probably going to start working on blue ISOs for my mutants. And then, following that, I'll see how I'm doing in bio and so on and so forth. I would say once you kind of get through your arena and raid teams and you still have, blue ISOs that you can spend, you can then start looking at Dark Dimension content and look at characters that you're specifically taking into Dark Dimension. A lot of the times, those actually might coincide with your raid teams as well. But, so that's, I think, kind of Mini's plan on, how I'm going to be working the blue ISOs, and I think just overall how I'm going to be working blue ISOs on all 3 of my accounts. I'm going to be focusing on my arena team first, and when I'm looking at my arena team, I'm looking at who are the kind of crucial members that really make the team functions. And in the situation of Infinity Watch, in my opinion, to get Infinity Watch really going, it's all about those triple and quadruple taps, and that's possible because of Nebula. So when you look at the ISO 8 level 3 bonus, they do that extra damage if there's 2 vulnerables. And the only way you're going to be able to get those 2 vulnerables is if the target, or, basically if Nebula has ISO blue level 3. Because instead of applying 1 vulnerable, she's going to apply 2. So that way, when my characters get their double tap, they're going to do an extra 5% of that character's max health to the primary target. That's just a lot of damage. And so that's the way I'm working that out. When I look at my raid team, like I said, I'm going to look at kind of who functions and what ISO 8 mechanics am I looking at, or what ISO 8 mechanics need really to get this team to survive. And, there's really no cookie cutter answer. It's going to really depend on the specific team. But for the Axemen, for example, you look at really the 3 primary members are Jubilee, Bishop, and Beast. And you want to look at the roles that you've assigned them. And, Jubilee and Bishop are both strikers, so they're going to depend on a skirmisher. So, they're going to kind of depend on Iceman. But for Beast, as the healer, if you look at his ISO blue level 3 bonus, he's going to apply a minor regeneration to the most injured ally, plus he's going to heal that ally for an extra 5% of this character's max health. So if you're running into situations where your team is dying and you need just a little bit more heals, this might be the thing you focus on first. If y'all want me to do kind of a more in-depth analysis, or if you have any questions maybe on specific teams that you're looking for recommendations on blue ISOs, certainly happy to answer that. But I hope from this you take away, I would really suggest working on your arena team first, raid teams following that, and then maybe any specific Dark Dimension characters. As always, thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Hope everyone is having a good week, and take it easy.